Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Review in Post, episode 7. And in this video, we're going to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. What they should do in the off season, what they should do in the future, and just this season in review. Let's get into it. Starting off at the beginning of the season, the Oklahoma City Thunder had a very bad start to the regular season this year, as they went 0-4 to start the season. And early on, people were questioning whether or not they were going to do anything this season, even though Russell Westbrook really didn't play for like the first however many games due to injury. An ankle injury, and they were really questioning the Thunder's ability to play. But they proceeded to follow up off this 4-game losing streak to going on a 7-game winning streak right after, and reaffirming their position in the West. And then this season became a very interesting season because Paul George came out this year playing MVP caliber basketball. Like, he was in the race with James Harden and Giannis all year, and they were number 1, 2, and 3 all season, and it didn't change in the back half even. And it was Giannis, Westbrook, Paul George all season. And they held the Thunder held on to the 3rd seat in the West the entire first half of the season, with some small competitions here and there. They are always the Warriors and the Nuggets ahead, as the Nuggets started off undefeated for a little bit, were the first team to knock off Golden State. And the Thunder played strongly after losing the first 4 games. And Paul George was averaging almost 30 points a night, hitting an insane amount of threes every game, and pushing his team through the hard times without the second star. And Russ took a back seat to allow Paul George to run the show a bit, which turned out to be the best frame of option for the Thunder this season. Until it came to the point later on when Paul George got hurt himself right before the All-Star break, and the Thunder began to lose a lot of steam to the point where they fell to the 8th seed of the West and had to climb out of the hole before the playoffs started. Because Paul George had a minor tear in his rotator cuff, which really can affect your shooting, because that's a very bad injury to have, especially as a basketball player, or anybody in general to have, as you can barely lift your arms above your head, really, with that type of injury. But it was clutch performance after clutch play from Paul George, like his dagger over the Brooklyn Nets, his big shot to finish the Brooklyn Nets early on, and then his slashing move to the rim and the floater over Rudy Gobert against the Utah Jazz. He played a solid season all year. Russell Westbrook had his worst shooting season ever since he was a rookie. So it's his worst season ever as a pro, because he's already established himself as a star everywhere else, and now his shooting numbers have fallen off drastically. And we're going to get into it later as we continue on, but I'm going to head off that topic for a while. But he did average a triple-double for the 3rd straight season, which is still amazing. And it's insane that he finds ways to do it every year. But the thing about that is that going to contribute to winning basketball? Because as far as we've seen, the triple-double hunting has only led to early playoff exits since he started doing it. And the playoff woes for the Thunder continued this year as they finished with the as they finished with the 6th seed after being the 3 seed for majority of the season and falling to 8th in the second half and then catching back up to get to 6th. And they won the last 2 games of the season to secure the 6th seed to play, and they beat the Bucks and then the Houston Rockets with a big shot from Paul George at the end of that game. And they sealed their season to end up as number 6, knocking the Rockets all the way down to number 4 after the Portland Trail Blazers won the game against the Lakers on the last game of the season. And this year in the playoffs, it was supposed to be coming back for redemption, much like the Portland Trail Blazers were. So it was 2 teams. It was supposed to be 2 teams hungry, looking for redemption to attempt to chase a championship. And really, a lot of people don't think about it this way. Like people like Damian Lillard and other NBA players don't think about it this way. But really, your clock is ticking when you're in the league. Wasting seasons not winning is very bad. If you're good enough to challenge for a championship, wasting seasons, going out in the first round, not contending is a very bad thing. Like if you look at the Houston Rockets right now, they lost 2 prime chances at a championship. And last year, due to injury, which is something you can't really control. But if Quinn Cook didn't step under Chris Paul, I don't think that injury would have happened, because that was a nasty looking play. But he did step under him. But I'm not going to get into that, because I'll get mad and start talking trash. But if you waste seasons like this, you'll hurt yourself in the long run, because you're putting your all into seasons where you haven't won a championship later on when you could have won a championship early on in your career. Like when Westbrook was with Kevin Durant, with all the injuries they had in between, and then blowing a 3-1 lead to Golden State, wasting an entire season of work, going up 3-1, that's wasting. Like if I go up 3-1 in a playoff series, that's wasting the series if I let somebody come back all the way and take the lead. That's a waste of effort and energy. You wasted your entire season if you go up 3-1 and lose. And the playoff woes continued because they proceeded to lose 4-1 to the Rockets the next year with just James Harden Rockets versus just Russell Westbrook Thunder. Then the next season, they go out first round to the Utah Jazz, a rather embarrassing feat with one former All-Star in Carmelo Anthony, and 2 star players, and one who looked like he was going to be the MVP the next season, Paul George. And Russell Westbrook went out like chumps, got killed, got knocked out in 6. They proceeded to get embarrassed again by the Portland Trail Blazers, one of the 2 teams looking for redemption in this year's playoffs, because they got embarrassed by Anthony Davis and the Pelicans last year. The Trailblazers came back and fought their way to the conference finals and proved that they really are a higher end team in this league, and they're not just a regular season joke like the Toronto Raptors were before Kawhi Leonard. And they went out 4-1. Portland Trailblazers won off one of the most amazing shots from Damian Lillard. And Paul George and Russell Westbrook recently have received a couple surgeries on their arms and Westbrook's knees. Paul George's shoulders and Westbrook's knees, respectively. And also in the post-game interview, Russell Westbrook talked a lot about how he is going to become a better shooter, as that has been his Achilles heel this season. That became his Achilles heel. Like, I played plenty of 2K games this year with the free throws on 100 difficulty. Russell Westbrook has a 62 overall from the free throw line this year. So he can't hit anything. He's shooting bad. He's shooting terrible. It's like playing with Lonzo Ball in real life at the free throw line with Russell Westbrook. And the Thunder had up and down season. I think it's pretty solid. I believe Paul George should win the Defensive Player of the Year award, but I think they'll probably give it to Giannis instead. So he'll lose MVP and Defensive Player of the Year to Giannis, in my opinion, because I believe Giannis is guaranteed to be the MVP. It could be James Harden, but I believe it's Giannis. And because the voters, I don't believe the voters they're going off my opinion. So I believe that they'll do it that way. And I think the Thunder, to build a contending team, they need to gain shooters. They need to get shooters on the team. Like, they need to get a Kyle Korver guy, a Kyle Korver style player. They could get, they need an Ingles kind of guy, Bogdanovich kind of guy, Bojan Bogdanovich kind of guy. Some guy that could knock down a lot of threes. They just need multiple shooters. Some guys you could dish it out to, drive and kick, like LeBron did that's why the Miami Heat succeeded, because you surrounded LeBron James, D Wade, and Chris Bosh with a bunch of shooters around them to compete for a championship. And that was what propelled them to win. That was what gave them the ability to win. Much like how they did later on, because that's how the Dallas Mavericks beat them in the playoffs. They didn't have any shooters that first year. They really didn't have that many shooters. They had Mike Miller himself. So, okay, we could have one guy in the paint. Oh, you can't go in the paint. Oh, but you guys can't shoot either. So we're locking you up. If you can't get in the paint. It's like that with the Thunder. Paul George is the only decent shooter on the team. They lost their best perimeter shooter. Well, besides Paul George, he's really the only perimeter shooter on the team. Terrence Ferguson learned how to shoot well this year as well. He shot decent. He wasn't good by any means, but he shot decent. And Jeremy Grant played decent, but they're not playoff caliber players. Because you need guys, really, if you want to look at scoring in its purest form, you can watch the NBA playoffs. Because the guys that really can score are scoring in the playoffs, not in the regular season. And really, some guys need a bigger sample size to really taste what they can do in the playoffs. Like Rodney Hood in the playoffs this year was 10 times better than regular season Rodney Hood. They could get a guy like that on the Thunder. The Thunder need options other than Russell Westbrook and Paul George to score the basketball in the playoffs. They got Markieff Morris. Markieff Morris isn't a scoring type guy. He's a defensive posting good guy. He's a post guy. He's a defensive post guy, somewhat. That's not what you need on a team like the Thunder. You need shooters, and you need some guys that can create their own shot. And Dennis Schroeder really isn't that guy. He's not. We watched him get swept in the playoffs multiple times by LeBron and the Cavs. We watched them go to bottom feeders of the East after being a perennial playoff team with him as in the starting role as they took Jeff Teague off the team. Things change, things go other ways. And I thank you guys for coming to listen to me. And I hope you guys will like, comment, and subscribe. Oh yeah.